Hello everyone, how are you all? My name is Bharat Kumar and today we are going to see the topic that is cyclone. And as you all know that recently the cyclone which has been formed in Bay of Bengal, that is Dana. Now the question comes that what is cyclone and basically why they are being formed in Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea and not over the land part. One thing. Second thing, the tropical areas are having also cyclones and the temperate also. So we are going to deal with the tropical one today because we are more, or we can say only affected by the tropical cyclone because we live in the tropical region, that is between 8 degree to 37 degree north latitudes. So the cyclone, or basically you might be thinking that why the name of cyclone has been given Dana. So it has been given by Qatar. So what are the criteria of naming the cyclones and what are the conditions which are favorable for the formation of cyclone? We will deal with that. Before that, if we define cyclone, what are cyclones? So they are low pressure system which are surrounded by high pressure, and as we all know that due to pressure difference, the wind used to move from high pressure area towards the low pressure area. So simply, in simple term, we can say that cyclones are low pressure systems surrounded by high pressure into which the winds from high pressure region rush towards the low pressure region. And if we draw the cyclone part, low pressure and it will be surrounded by high pressure. Now the winds are moving towards the low pressure region, means they are going to hit each other's head, means from front side. But this is not going to happen. Why? Because we know that our earth is rotating on its axis, and due to rotation of earth one force is applied, and that is considered as Coriolis force. And what does Coriolis force says? That any freely moving object will be deflected towards right of its path in northern hemisphere and towards south left in southern hemisphere. This means the winds which are moving from high pressure to low pressure are going to get deflected towards right of their path in northern hemisphere, and when they will move like this, basically they are going to hit each other's back and they will form a churning vortex like this, means just like a spring or a spiral circulation, and that is considered as a cyclone. Now if I show you the body of the cyclone, then you can see the winds are moving from high pressure region towards the low pressure region. Now when they will move, they will form the structure like this as it is explained here. So basically we have seen that the low pressure area is being surrounded by the high pressure. Before that, let me tell you that suddenly the cyclones are not formed. There are phases in which the cyclones formed. Like initially the sea surface will form a depression, before that a cyclonic storm, and finally it will be declared as cyclone. That's why if you have noticed, when the meteorological departments predicts about the onset of cyclone or the formation of cyclone in Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea, what they used to say that the conditions are being formed for the formation of cyclone. But if you have noticed, what happens? Sometimes the department, meteorological department, used to take back the announcements or the predictions of the formation of cyclone because the phases in which the formation of cyclone is going to take place does not happen, and finally the system dissipates. So here the stages are there. The tropical cyclone, which I told you already, an area of low pressure which develops over the tropical or subtropical water, means you can say sea or oceans. Tropical depressions, when it will be considered as tropical depression, a weak tropical cyclone in which the maximum surface wind speed is 62 km per hour or less, then that will be considered as depression. Depression, as you all know, a low pressure system. But when the depression will become more bigger, then automatically it will be considered as tropical storm. And tropical storm, in this the wind speed reaches between 63 km to 118 km per hour, or you can say 73 mile per hours, or in knots 34 to 64 knots. Then it will be considered as tropical storm. Initially, when the sea is going to be heated, we are going to see the situations which are related or the conditions which are favorable for the formation of cyclone. So after the depression, if the situation prevails for a long time, then it will form the depression. Depression, then after the storm, and finally it will be considered as hurricane when the wind speed is going to increase more than 119 km per hour. Now you have seen the name hurricane. So basically tropical cyclones, they used to come between 8 degree to 25 degree north and south latitudes. Now due to global warming, the latitudes had changed. Now from 5 degree to 30 degree the tropical cyclones are coming, and between the north and the south latitudes. Now the question comes, sir, why the equatorial region is free from cyclonic activity? And many times UPSC has asked in examination that instead of having the favorable condition for the formation of cyclone in the equatorial regions between 5 degree north to 5 degree south latitudes, that is high sea surface temperature, why this region is free from cyclonic activities? So let me remind you, initially what we saw, that how the churning vortex is being formed. So it is due to Coriolis force, and as we know that equatorial region is free from Coriolis force effect, or you can say there is no such deflection of the wind or the freely moving objects. So the answer will be, due to absence of Coriolis force, the equatorial region have no cyclonic activities. Now moving on to the next. Now when the tropical areas are going to experience the cyclonic activity on different places all over the globe, they are known by different names. Like when these tropical cyclones will come in Caribbean Sea, or you can say Gulf of Mexico area, simply country USA, then it will be given the prefix of hurricane, like Hurricane Matthew. Then after, when this tropical cyclone is going to come in South East China Sea, or you can say nearby Japan and Philippines, then it will be considered as typhoon. When it will come in Australia, then it will be considered as Willy Willies, and in Indian Ocean, means Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, they are called simply the cyclones or Chakravat, along with their name like Philene, Gaja, Fani, then after right now, Dana, all these. So like this only they are considered as hurricanes. And on the basis of intensity, the class 4 category cyclones are hurricanes, class 3 typhoon, then after 2 Willy Willies, and among the all 4 categories, the least you can say speed is of cyclones in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Now as you can see the chart, on the basis of destruction, how they are categorized. So category 1 cyclone means knot 62 to 82, in which the wind speed will be 119 to 150 km per hour, then it will be considered as low, and the low pressure area of the center of cyclone, which is considered as I, will be 980 millibar. Then after, category 2 83 to 97 knots or 154 to 177 km per hour, the barometric pressure will be between 960 to 979, that will be moderate. Then after 998 to 113 knots, that is category 3 cyclone. Now as the category is increasing, the barometric pressure will decrease, the wind speed will increase. Now the question comes, what is the relationship between the pressure gradient and the wind speed? So as we all know, the imaginary lines which join the places with equal pressure are considered as isobars, and the gap between the isobars is considered as the pressure gradient, which means less the gap between the isobars, more the gradient, and more the gap between the isobars, less gradients. So you can say that the pressure gradient and the gapping between the isobars are inversely proportional to each other. Now, what is the relationship between the gradient and the wind speed? So gradient and wind speed is directly proportional. More the gradient, more the speed, less the gradient, less the speed. So when the isobars are closely spaced, then the gradient will be more, and when the pressure gradient will be more, the wind speed will increase. As you can see, the pressure is decreasing, so the wind speed is increasing. Category 4, 114 to 135 knot means near about 200 to 250 km per hour, and the isobar will range between 920 to 940, and they are extreme, and the catastrophic one will be more than 135, wind speed more than 250, and isobar will be less than 920. And we know that normal barometric pressure is 1013 millibar, means 920 millibar is the, you can say, a huge low pressure, which will lead into very high wind speed, and they will be catastrophic in nature, means the devastation which they are going to bring is beyond the explanation. Everything is wiped out there. So like this, the cyclones are categorized. Now, ingredients of the cyclone. Simply we can say the factors which are responsible for the formation of tropical cyclone. So the first factor is the pre-existing disturbance, means you can say a storm condition must be there, large area of persistence, loosely organized thunderstorm. Thunderstorm, mind it. Now the question comes, when the thunderstorms are formed due to high temperature, that's why this type of rainfall are considered as convectional rainfall. And we know in convectional rainfall, due to high surface heating, when the air over the surface starts moving up, leading into formation of cumulonimbus cloud, and those cumulonimbus cloud will lead into thunderstorms. So the area must be unstable. First thing, means high heating is going to be there. Second, the warm ocean water, and this is the most important part. That's why the cyclones are formed only over sea or oceans, not on the land part. And that's why when the cyclone reaches to the coastal area, they dissipate within hours due to unavailability of water. Now the question coming in your mind, why this happens? Why the cyclone dissipates after hitting the coastal area? So basically the energy which is required for the sustaining the low pressure system disappears. And what is that? That is the latent heat of condensation. How this happens, we will come to know in the next slides. Temperature of at least 26 degrees Celsius down to the depth of 50 meter of depth, mind it. Now the question comes, why till 50 meter? So this is the photic zone till where the sun rays penetrate in the sea. After 25 degrees Celsius, the depression starts getting formed. As the temperature increases, the low pressure start becoming bigger, and finally at 26 degrees Celsius, the cyclonic system forms. That's why the 26 degrees Celsius temperature has been given, but you can see in average between 25 degree to 27 degrees Celsius. Now, here is the answer of your question, why it is not formed on land. So, the temperature of land 26 to 27 degree is not a rare case, as we know that during summer season, the temperature of land reaches to 45 degree, 47 degrees Celsius. So, why the cyclone is not being formed? So, due to the energy and basically the latent heat of condensation, which is available only in the moist water, or you can say the air containing water vapor. And the third point, light upper level winds means you can say a persistence situation, or a you can say and the third, light upper level winds means the upper level circulation must be very slow, or you can say they must be stagnant in nature, little or no vertical wind shear, which degrades the tropical cyclone structure. Basically, because they will move the clouds and they will cool the atmosphere. Then after, here you can see, as I told you earlier also, that in stages they are formed. Like the first stage, converging winds push the warm moist rapid upward, creating the clouds above the ocean surface like the cumulus cloud, and it will form the cumulonimbus clouds. The sea water evaporates, the warm moist air continues to ascend, and when the air will ascend, basically the process of condensation will take place. When the process of condensation will take place, the latent heat which was consumed during the process of converting the water into water vapor will get released, and when it will be released, automatically the temperature within the system will increase, and that increase in temperature, the storm clouds, mainly the cumulonimbus clouds, are formed, leading into the formation of central depression, or you can say a low pressure system. And due to Coriolis force, the winds moving towards the center will churn and make a churning vortex, and finally the eye of the cyclone is formed and a particular cyclonic system is formed. Now, if you have noticed, the frequency of cyclones and their speed is increasing. Why it is so? As because of the climate change. As we know, due to the global warming, the average temperature of earth has increased by near about 2 degrees Celsius, and that's why every year, you know, we are doing the climate change summit, COP, like this year also COP 29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, it is going to happen, and in that we will discuss about the global warming, or you can say in every convention we are concentrating on heating of the earth. And basically, if you have noticed, what we are discussing, that we have to limit the increasing temperature of earth till 2 degrees Celsius only. Means if the temperature of the earth is going to increase, what will happen? The temperature of the ocean surface will also increase, and when the temperature of ocean surface will increase, automatically the formation of tropical cyclone will take place. Now, as I discussed with you about the latent heat, so how the process is taking place, you can see the warm moist air is moving up from the ocean floor, water vapor rises into the atmosphere, then after, as the water vapor rises, it cools and condenses into water droplets. When the vapor will turn into water droplet, the condensation releases heat into the atmosphere, making the air lighter, and again it will move up, leading into formation of cumulonimbus cloud. That's why, often UPSC asks that what is the energy which drives the cyclonic system? So that is latent heat of condensation. And after the formation of cyclone, this is the structure which is formed by alternate bands of rising and sinking air, as we all know. And in this way, as you can see in the image, the air is moving up and then after diverging, means the cyclonic system which is formed at the base in upper air, automatically the anticyclonic system will be there, because we know the place or the surface where low pressure will be created, the air which will move up will create high pressure in the upper atmosphere, and the places which are having high pressure will have low pressure in the atmosphere. So here low pressure is at the base, so high pressure will be at the top, and the winds from high pressure will move out, leading into formation of anticyclonic system in the upper atmosphere. And in the eye of cyclone, as you can see, the wind is moving down. When the wind will sink down, the descending air, it will lead into clear sky. Then after, the family of middle and high clouds will be found, calm air conditions will be there, and basically a bright sunshine. But along with the bands in the eye wall and the outer ring of the cyclone, the weather conditions will be worst and bad. So let's see the next part. This is the body of the cyclone. As you can see, the hollow part is considered as the eye and the periphery is considered as the eye wall. The outflow cloud shield, these are the cumulonimbus cloud, as you all know, and then after, the nimbostratus cloud will be found, which are responsible for continuous rain and also known as rain clouds. This is the vertical section as how the cyclone looks like, and in this manner only the UPSC used to ask the question that if a cyclone is moving towards a person, so what will be the weather conditions he will experience before the coming of cyclone, into the cyclone, into the eye, or in the eye wall. We are going to discuss it after this. Now, as we have seen the formation of cyclone, what are the favorable conditions which are required for formation of tropical depression, storm, and then after a cyclonic system. Now the question comes, as the Coriolis force is applicable over them, in which direction they used to move? So there are two things. One, the direction of wind into the cyclone and the path of the cyclone. So basically the path of cyclone in northern hemisphere is clockwise and in southern hemisphere it is anti-clockwise, as we know, towards right of its path and towards left. On the other hand, the winds which will move in the system, that is into the cyclone, that will be anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern hemisphere. As you can see, the winds moving in the cyclone are anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern hemisphere. But after the formation of the complete system, it will move clockwise, because when the cyclonic system will be formed, it will become a freely moving object and then the Coriolis force will be applied. So it will move in the clockwise direction in northern hemisphere. That's why when the cyclone formed in Bay of Bengal hits the Odisha coast or Andhra coast, they move towards Andhra, Odisha, West Bengal and finally Bangladesh. And the cyclones coming in Arabian Sea, they moves from top to bottom. So in southern hemisphere, now how they will move? They will move anti-clockwise, the whole system. like this, but the wind will move like this. Mind it. And these two lines are often asked in paper about the movement of wind direction into the system and movement of or the path of cyclone. Remember this always. Then after the question which came in your mind about the naming of cyclone. Earlier, before 2004, the cyclones were given the, you can say, female names basically, but due to development of studies and due to hurting of the sentiments of, you can say, feminism or some caste, religion, reason, a community of people, what happened? WHO, Now we are moving on to the part that is the naming of the cyclone. Before 2004, the cyclones were named on the basis of, you can say, some female aspect or some religion or some region or a community aspect. But due to hurting the sentiments, what WMO, World Meteorological Organization, did, they conducted the meeting of the countries of the tropical nation, and those were 13 countries, and formed the RSMC, that is Regional Specialized Meteorological Centers, and one of that center is present in New Delhi also, and given them some criteria to suggest some names which will be, you can say, free from any religious aspect, any gender aspect, any country or, you can say, population part, which can't hurt their sentiments, and it must be easy to pronounce. All these criteria we will see. But what is the main scenario? The RSMC New Delhi Tropical Cyclone Center names cyclones that forms over Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea, and the naming processes for tropical cyclones in the region follows a set of guidelines which includes many things. Before that, let me tell you about RSMC. Stands for Regional Specialized Meteorological Center, which are part of World Meteorological Organization Tropical Cyclone Program, TCP, and they are responsible for providing information and advisories on tropical cyclones, hurricanes and typhoons around the world. And what does RSMC does? Monitoring of the cyclones, then after the data processing, means the study of barometric pressure, the sea surface temperature, wind speed, all these things. Then after the tracking, that is detecting, tracking, predicting the cyclonic storms in Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Then after advisory issue, means basically they will predict and they will just warn the areas and the countries which are going to be affected by them. Then after the data collection, research why they are being formed, on which basis and why they are so frequent, and then after the naming of the cyclone. The naming of the cyclone includes basically what? The panel on tropical cyclones agrees to assign the names to the cyclones, and the member countries were 13, and those member countries are Bangladesh, India, Iran, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, UAE and Yemen. So basically these countries have given the names, and all these countries were given some criteria. What are those criteria? Names should be short, easy to pronounce and unique. They should be also neutral to politics, religion, culture and gender, as I told you earlier. Name should be not rude or cruel, should not hurt the sentiments of any group of people. Maximum length of the name 8 letters, means more than 8 letters they are not going to be accepted. Proposed names should be provided along with their pronunciation, meaning and voiceover. Why? Because we know due to the regional variance and the language variance and the mother tongue variance, the pronunciation are different and the names and their spellings are different. Names are allotted to the cyclones on the rotational basis, starting from the first country till the last, and again it will start from the first column. Like as you can see, these are the names. Presently Dana, which is given by Qatar, but here you can see the column 1 has ended already. Then after, in column 2 we have seen Biparjoy, Tez, Hamoon, Midhil. Now then after, Migong, Rimal already came, Asna, and now presently Dana, which is going to come on, hit the Andhra coast and Odisha coast on 23rd of October, as they are the IMO, Indian Meteorological Organization, and RSMC New Delhi has been predicting. It can be delay also. It's not necessary, but depending upon the wind speed, what we are predicting, it is going to hit 23rd October. It's not necessary, it can hit on 24 also. But mind it, as long as this cyclonic system is going to be on sea surface, it will become more devastating in nature. Why? Because the moist air from all sides, means from the ocean surface, will rush towards the low pressure, and that moist air will be lifted up, leading into creation of again a huge low pressure, and when the pressure gradient will increase, automatically the low pressure will become more bigger and the wind speed will also become bigger. Then after, now the next which is going to become is Fenegal, but you can say the name Fenegal, Saudi Arabia, but the pronunciation is Fenjal. Then after, Sakti, which Sri Lanka has given. Then Montha, written Motha by Thailand, then UAE, then Ditwa. When the second column will end, again the name will start from third column, that is Bangladesh. In this way, all the 13 countries has given 13 names, means total 13 columns has been formed. So we can say near about 169 cyclones names has been given, and every year near about 4 to 5 cyclones are coming. The frequency has been increased. Why the frequency has been increased? Due to global warming, as we know, and we are seeing that the sea surface temperature is rising day by day. Then after, the questions which I asked you, the weather condition related to tropical cyclone. So when we see the tropical cyclones weather conditions, firstly the eye of the cyclone will be formed, means the center of the cyclone, and the clouds which are considered as the outer ring, eye wall, now suppose the person is sitting here and the cyclone is moving like this, means from sea it is moving towards the coastal region. So what will happen? Initially, the weather condition which he is going to experience in the outer ring, wind speed nearly 50 to 60 or 70 km per hour, dusty winds, clouds, stratus clouds and nimbostratus clouds, which are responsible for drizzle along with rainfall. Then after, the weather conditions will be bad, mind it. But when the eye wall will reach basically this part, the weather condition is going to be worst in that region. Maximum wind speed, that will be more than 150 km per hour, formation of cumulonimbus clouds, gusty winds, means along with dust, everything is going to be blown out. Then after, torrential rainfall, heavy rainfall, thundering and the worst weather condition. But suddenly, when the eye will come, the pressure will be lowest, temperature will be maximum and calm weather condition, means you can say that a broad sunshine can be also there, because the area of eye ranges between 30 to 50 km in radius. And if we talk about the radius or the stretch of the cyclone, it can range between 500 to thousands of kilometers, means 1000 km also its diameter can be there. Now when the 1000 km diameter means 500 and 500, that's why it will depends upon the intensity and the amount of low pressure which has been created at the eye and which category cyclone it is. Category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear? And again, after the passing of the eye, again when the eye wall will come, the eye wall condition will be repeated. Again the worst condition, worst weather conditions, maximum wind velocity, then after torrential rainfall, all these things. And then after, the outer rings, means the rainfall will reduce and the wind speed will go on decreasing and finally the system will dissipate. Clear? Now moving on to the next, that is PYQ, which has been asked related to cyclone. With reference to tropical cyclone, consider the following statements. It requires large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degrees Celsius for its formation. Yes, it can be. Coriolis force is not required in the formation of tropical cyclone. It's completely wrong. Why? As because we saw that due to Coriolis force only, the winds are getting deflected and leading into formation of a churning vortex. So statement 2 is wrong. It is needed, and due to absence of Coriolis force only, the equatorial region is free from cyclonic activities. Cyclonic wind movements are anti-clockwise in southern hemisphere and clockwise in northern hemisphere. Mind it, the wind movement, they are talking about the cyclonic wind movement are anti-clockwise. That is wrong. Basically, it is clockwise in southern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere. So only the first statement is correct. If they have asked in the third sentence, the cyclonic system movement is anti-clockwise in southern hemisphere and clockwise in northern hemisphere, then the sentence is right. But here they are asking about the wind movement in the cyclonic system, and that is anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern hemisphere. Consider the following statement with reference to the tropical cyclone. The eye wall is the most dangerous and the destructive part of the cyclone. Right now we discussed about it, means this sentence is right. Temperature at the eye of the tropical cyclone is lower than the other region of the storm. No. Basically, that is the more. The pressure is low. So this statement is wrong. In the eye of the cyclone, the air is often calm and free from clouds. Yes, you can see a sunshine also in the eye of the cyclone. So basically 1 and 3 is correct and the number 2 statement is wrong. So I think in this way we have seen that how the cyclones are formed, why they are confined in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea only, or you can say the tropical waters, how their wind speed is governed, and why the equatorial region does not experiences the cyclonic activity. And especially the naming of the cyclone, how Dana has been named and who has given the name and what is the purpose. So we will meet in the next lecture with more interesting facts about the current topics of the geography along with the other topics. Till then, thank you. Have a nice day.